Philosophy slap, philosophy slap, philosophy slap. This is your guys' weekly dose of philosophy slap. Just warning, I'm probably just gonna do jump cuts, a title, maybe some memes here and there, obviously reused, but, I'm gonna be very busy throughout these weeks, so, I'll reduce in content quality, I'll be honest. I wanna talk about the relationships between Hiplets and Manlets, and this unemployment war that's going on. I don't even call it the gender wars anymore, it's called the Hiplet and Manlet wars now. If you're not online, God bless your soul. And if you're also employed, the new term of the month is Hiplet, which is a direct response to Manlet, right? Since both of them are determined by genetics and bone structure, and there's nothing you can really do to change them unless you have invasive surgery. In my personal opinion, I'm being entertained even though I am a Manlet. I just like to observe the circus. And all of this is very insignificant, as I said before in my last video, on what I believe. I'm personally an absurdist, so I find everything insignificant and funny at the same time. The word Hiplet, it's a valid response, to be honest. I don't think it's going to change anything socially. Like, women are still going to date or prefer to date very tall men. And men are going to prefer to date, like, women with protruded hips. And though really, women with hip dips, it doesn't really matter. One thing that matters is just the perkiness of her butt and her boobs. That's what matters to you guys in a woman's body, being real. But yeah, it's not really going to change anything. No day dynamics are going to change. I just think it's just, I live for the rage bait, so I kind of support it because it's just rage bait on both sides, so I kind of just find it funny. And, like, if a woman calls me a manly, either, like, on TikTok or in, like, the YouTube comments, I'll be honest, I really don't care. I just accepted it at this point, so it's whatever. It is what it is. I'll probably call them a hiplet just to get back at them, even if they don't have hip tips. The creation of these new buzzwords to kind of demean each other, I kind of just like to call it word slop. Especially if a person or a midwit uses the term wrong or incorrectly, especially with the suffix lit. Because whenever a person uses the suffix lit, it just means lack of, right? Obviously, right? So an IQ lit is just a person who lacks an IQ, right? But I've seen the term cellulite, flatlit, used as an insult, and it's really just a compliment. Like, for guys, it will be a shrimplet. That would mean, like, the guy has a big dick. The term dillit is a proper insult. I don't really care for, like, the insults between, like, men and women. I just care that it's just used properly. Because if it's used improperly, I find it incoherent, in my opinion, and it just becomes word slop to me. Whenever I use the term word slop, is when a person tries to make a new buzzword to use in a demeaning and insulting way, but they use it incorrectly and it comes off incoherently. And it's becoming like a pandemic at this point. The word slop pandemic is real, and it's caused by midwits. It just kind of seems as like we're losing very much sympathy for one another, and people just say become empathetic, use empathy. Empathy is such an overused term right now. I think we just lost the definition of it, funny enough. Really, empathy comes from a place of understanding, like, of the situation to, like, a one-to-one degree, and sympathy is just having feelings towards it. Like, when my friends had something tragic happen to them, I can give out my sympathy towards them, but I can't say that I have empathy towards the situation, because one, that would just be insulting. Two, I would be lying to them, because I haven't experienced that. And sympathy isn't inferior to empathy, in my personal opinion, because it's still a good trait to have. Also, in my opinion, that empathy is a more masculine trait compared to sympathy, and it also doesn't mean sympathy is inferior again, or anything feminine is inferior to the masculine. Masculine guys can have, like, some feminine traits among them, and women can have some masculine traits among them. Again, Carl Jung speaks about this, the anima and the animus. Again, I'm tapped into this philosophy slap content. I'm gonna ride that tiger and goon with one hand. And if you know where the quote, riding the tiger, comes from, and who made it, yeah, you're tapped in. You're tapped in. But speaking of, like, being sympathetic to one another, since we're losing it, this is why we are just fighting with one another. Granted, it is a social psyop, probably created by you-know-who, to just let us fight with one another and distract us from the big picture. But I'll say I am being entertained, so I'm not going to fight it, because nothing ever happens. As long as I can be fed, like, good slop and be entertained, I'm happy. Still, it is kind of, like, dark, very cynical, in a way that humans want to just prop their egos. Like, even me. Again, Carl Jung speaks about this, the shadow self. I do integrate it. I do have the cynical and egotistical side of me. I do accept that, and I will act upon it if I want to. But my id is usually, like, stronger than my ego. Granted, that might be propped up due to society, but I'll still act upon my ids and my wants. I still want to. I do jiu-jitsu. I do martial arts. I feel better when I'm dominating my spar partner or my opponent. I feel a lot better. I think people that do MMA could relate. You know, you want to be the best at something. That is your ego talking, and it's a good thing to listen to your ego. Yeah, people say it's narcissistic or it's prideful or arrogant, but who cares at that point? You know what I mean? But granted, there's a certain degree of balance you have to have. You can still have compassion while being egotistical in a way, but we're losing that compassion for one another, especially when you see like videos that people don't care about, like people dying. They put up memes. They're being facetious towards the situation, even when a situation is daunting. Like I'll say children stuck in traffic, if you know what I'm talking about. They put up memes, even though they say they're angry, but again, putting up memes in the comment section is not gonna help anyone. Too, it's still a form of you being facetious, even though you're not making fun of the situation. You're still putting up a meme. A meme is still hilarious in its own way. So you know, it's taking out the levity of the situation itself. Granted, posting a video and talking about it will get notoriety and attention towards the situation, but I still feel like nothing will happen because of it. Most people are just gonna like laze around. Even me, I'm gonna just laze around. I can't really do anything about it. I can really only repost it at best, but you know, nothing's gonna happen. And that's just me being realistic, unless like someone does something about it. But you know, what are the chances? Where like many different situations that did happen, but only one person did it, and no reaction came out of it. Being real, and also think going back into relationships, we have such an idealistic view of what a relationship should be between like a romantic relationship. I'm gonna be talking about like heterosexual relationships, so don't come at me. One idealistic view is that we're supposed to trust each other like right away, 100%, right? I don't believe that. I think we shouldn't trust each other 100%. I think we have to build and earn it. Like the advice that people give in these relationship YouTube videos, like one popular one was the Lucky MC. His girlfriend broke up with him, and people are like very parasocial, right? Within that, that's why if I ever get into a relationship again, like I won't post it online or ever will. But you know, granted, they gave out relationship advice, good relationship advice, but they didn't follow it. I think it was just being idealistic in a way, and they did both trust each other. But to relate to this, the trust is beautiful, but realistically, I don't think you would ever have that type of trust to a stranger. You have to kind of build that. And so realistically, I would look at my girlfriend's phone on random days, and she will look at mine on random days. It could be the same day, it could be the next day, whatever, right? I don't think it should be the same day because hypothetically, I could just delete my messages and then tell her look at my phone because I planned it on the next day. So I don't think it should happen. I think it should happen on random days. Don't tell your partner when. You know what I mean? Just tell them, you know, I want to look at your phone. You can do like two times a day. The day afterwards, you know what I mean? How many times you want to do it? And then when you both build upon that trust with each other, right? I think you're gonna most likely do it less and less and less. But granted, I still think you should do it throughout the entirety of your relationship, just to be honest with each other. Again, it's like it's an advice, and people are gonna disagree with it, and I think that's fine, to be honest. But you know, I have a very cynical view on humanity. You know what I mean? And it's not bad to have like that trust with your partner, but still, I think it's better to just build upon that trust and just to like give it out flatly. Again, you wouldn't give that much trust to a stranger, and most people like go online to date, and they are strangers in the first place. Granted, that's also what's wrong with the dating market and stuff as well. You just date strangers, not really your friends, so you don't have any trust that was built upon before. Again, even then, the dating market it just sucks too. It's just these wars, these political takes, difference in morals. It's ideal to date someone who's like aligned with you with like every take that you have, but realistically, that's very rare to come across. You don't really know if you're gonna be attracted to them physically or emotionally. You don't really know. You don't really know. There's like so many aspects to think about. Plus, like very bad situations that happen in like relationships are perpetuated online. How some women think, and like them being birds, also men being birds as well. That doesn't really help the relationships either. But that being the case, you just have to kind of find yourself, be happy with yourself at the most part, and enjoy the insanity of it all, of the social media, enjoy the entertainment and the slop, and just improve yourself upon this and just focus. I feel like why I left dating as a guy, also like neurodivergent too, is that I just don't want to be hurt. Again, I've been rejected a lot of times too, and I have been accepted sometimes, but it still hurts. There's nothing wrong with saying that you've been hurt before. I don't know why people use that as an insult, in my opinion. It's okay that you've been hurt by someone. That happens. You were vulnerable with them. You gave your emotions to them. You gave your heart out to them, and they kind of hurt you because they gave you some of their emotions too. It happens. There's nothing wrong with it. Right? You can grow as a person through the pain, or just kind of sit down and wallow in it. Again, self-actualization is very important. It's important to just improve upon your situation, especially nowadays.